What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the garage and to the greatest live show about automotive tuning that nobody knows about. Except for 14 people who are in here. I see WS6, Andrew, Charles, and Cole. Hey, you guys, there's MK. I haven't responded to your message, but I will. I know it's there. Hey, Joseph, what's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday! Got Funny Muffler, Jason, David. What is up, everybody? What is new? What is going on? There ain't a whole lot new going on over here. It's been a busy week, but it's been busy in a different kind of way. It's not been busy in a tuning cars kind of way. It's been busy in an actual doing work, yard work, housework, stuff like that. Mrs. Garage has been gone for 2 weeks. She was supposed to get home tonight. Her first flight got delayed. She missed her connector. Doesn't look like she's going to make it home. You know, MK, I heard that it was tornado time in Oklahoma. They said the weather is supposed to be bad today. Is it bad around Oklahoma City because it's not up in Enid? What up, Mike? What up, Frederick? Who else we got? Sean, L's footage, Bill. What is happening? 780? What up? So, yeah, no, I've done very little. The message is real spammy over here. It just shows up out of nowhere. It's like, blah. Under tornado watch. Fun stuff. Got some rain and thunder at the moment. It's supposed to rain here tomorrow. So, I don't know. I was thinking about maybe doing some suspension work on the Oldsmobile this weekend. David wants to know what everybody does to afford their projects. Good question. ICT. What up, brah? I go into serious amounts of debt to afford my projects. Dude, Charles, my dogs do not need to go out because one of them just peed right outside the door before the live show started. They've been out 4 times in the last 4 hours. And the old one still peed on the floor. Like, come on. You're killing me. You're killing me. We got power lines, natural gas, oil patch. A lot of oil patch, I'm guessing. Power lines. More power lines than oil. I'm natural gas. So, seems to be a trend of guys who like to work on stuff like this. They like to get their hands dirty. They may be working a little bit dirtier stuff. Though there's probably some guys in here, you know. See, Sean's a construction project manager. He used to get his hands dirty. Now he just bosses other people around. I mean, I can't say that. I don't do anything anymore. ICT's on OnlyFans. He's got pictures of his feet up there if you want to go check those out. He's a foot fetishist. What up, Schmidt? Exactly, Mike. Side work pays for the toys. Whatever your side work may be, OnlyFans, mowing yards, you do what you got. You got to pay to play. Yeah, exactly. Even ugly, hairy feet. Hey, Brad. Good to see you, brother. So, anybody got anything going on? Anybody got any tuning questions? Still no, I'm not doing compound turbos. Don't tell the wife. I'd make a lot more money if my wife's feet were on OnlyFans. Yeah, exactly. Work on cars out of a storage unit. I went and got another storage unit last weekend. I'm up to 4. It's a bit ridiculous. I gotta get rid of a project. So, I think it's going to be the Typhoon. As much as I love it. Yeah, exactly, Schmidt. How do you get the closed loop to idle leaner? So you can change the target voltage on it. It's going to be around 450. If you drop it down to 400, it'll idle leaner. Have I done anything with the Cobalt SS? No. The E69, though, that's used on more platforms, just the Cobalt SS, right? That 4th gen boost platform? Having issues with false lean on the AEM AFR gauge? You probably got an exhaust leak. Always need a bigger shed. How often do you recalibrate your LS 4.9 sensors? I've only recalibrated an LS 4.9 sensor once. I normally just throw them away and get another one because I run the cheap ones off Amazon. I don't buy those $120 Bosch LSU 4.9s. I buy the cheap stuff. Wideband gauge not matching the scanner? No. If the wideband gauge does not match the scanner, you got an issue with your signal going to the scanner. So it's got to be like analog drift or something. That's why we like to use serial. Gen 3 secondary VVE table. How do you tune that? Okay, here's how I like to do it, David. And there's multiple ways that you can do it. I like to set up 2 histograms. One for the primary, one for the secondary. As long as they're using the same math, it'll populate both tables, and then I apply both tables at the same time. Just make sure that you're applying them the same way. So if you're using the multiply by percentage half, apply it to both at the same time. Then whenever you get done, because you're tuning on the secondary table, you can look at your secondary table, which has half the resolution of your primary table, and look at the rows and just compare and see that they're fairly close. They don't need to be spot on. It might be 1 or 2 off. But as long as they're fairly close, all the data in between should be good. Does Holly software finally let you tune in Lambda? Not that I know of, and it probably never will, because it's Holly. 96 CHL just did the 411 PCM swap on 96 Chevy Silverado. Gotcha. PCM came out of an 02 Chevy Express van, having idling problems and surge. I mean, you drive-by-wire, drive-by-cable. I guess you probably just kept the drive-by-cable on there. You need to double-check your IAC position. Make sure it's around 80. Man, $65 for that wideband. I can get at least 3 of them off Amazon for that. Will you open up more spots for your top tier of your Patreon? No, I don't open up more spots. But generally at the end of the month, the people that are on the old pay system, if they're going to stop at the end of the month, because that's when a lot of people get billed. Now, the new system is set up where you get 30 days from the date that you sign up. This way it should have been from the get-go. I don't know why it took Patreon so long to go that way. Is it normal when you turn the car off that the AFR gauge goes slowly richer and richer? That's better than it going slowly leaner and leaner, to be honest with you, Charles. So it's not a bad thing. If it's going slowly leaner and leaner, you've got a exhaust leak, and it's probably at the bung itself. Well, not everybody can get their 4.9s for free, but I buy the 3-pack of cheap ones. Looking at tuning the variable valve, I don't know what advance is on each separate cam is. You should be able to log each separate cam's position, right? On those inline 4s. Torque-based ECU. So they're a 4th gen. The Cobalt SS would be a 4th gen hybrid. Drive-by-wire is not the devil. It's just harder to tune. In some ways it's actually easier to tune. Because you've got actual throttle control for idle stuff. You know. IACs are not the best for idle control. Because they're slow, and they have to react slow. And so you're relying too much on timing adjustments for idle control, which you still have on drive-by-wire. But what we think of quick versus slow, quick being timing, slow being airflow, quick or slow is a lot quicker on drive-by-wire. Exactly. Hey, 3 for 65, we wonder why they fail, but whenever they fail, in the trash, man. Takes 5 minutes to swap one out. Ever tuned anything with the Link? No, I have not messed with Link. I have looked at their software though, Jason, and I like their software. Mike, 0 degrees means should be parked if it has 0 degrees. So generally, if it has VVT, it either has exact degrees versus the crank position, I want to say, or if it has 0, that means that the cam is parked. that particular cam is in straight up mode, as we call it. What up, Bernard? How you doing, brother? Let's see, what else we got? What else we got? Can the airflow final min table affect EQ on coast down? Shouldn't. Should not. So whenever you go on coast down, normally whenever you're not tuning, you're going to go into DFCO and it's going to cut off fuel. And then whenever you get to that DFCO disable, which is around 1200 or 1400 RPMs, then the fueling comes back on to catch it. But it shouldn't be affecting it until it gets below that 1200. And then even then, you're not really on airflow final or the airflow base for idle until you get down to like within 100 or so of your idle set point. Oh yeah, it was a two-step box. What else we got? So much easier on Holly for drive-by-wire. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Nothing's easier on Holly. Nothing's easier on Holly. Brr. Don't be coming in here, Holly fanboys. Do I feel the same as Richard Holdner when it comes to sheet metal intakes? I've not watched Richard Holdner's sheet metal intake video, but I can tell you this much. That dude knows what he's talking about. So if he says they're good, they're good. If he says they're bad, they're bad. What does he say, Bill? Like, give me the too long didn't read version of it. Got a Gen 4 with AFM canned and cammed port polish, having a hard time with it. Stopping too fast kills the motor. So it's got to be dropping too low on something, either base idle airflow, throttle followers not giving it enough. Something has to be causing it to dip too low to the point where it dies. So look at where it starts to die, and you'll see, like, if it's a timing issue, you'll see the timing go down, then suddenly shoot way up right before it dies, and that's it trying to correct itself, but it doesn't have enough time. So you may need to look at it, but it's going to be airflow or idle. It's one or the other. Had to do the F23 swap after the F35 blew apart. But with going out trans, gotta love that. Mike, yours is dual overhead cam though, right? So it should be 0 degrees on the intake, and then there should be another number specifically for the exhaust. As I said, you should have an intake degree number and an exhaust degree number. Oh, tornado and total. Be careful, man. That's what you get for installing Holly on your stuff. MK Motorsports about to get his truck wiped off the face of the planet because God doesn't like Holly. Replace the TCM and valve body in the 6L80. Motor running okay. Probably need to rebuild the rest of the tranny and replace torque converter and pump. Man, I hate tranny work. I hate tranny work. Not good at low RPM with the sheet metal intakes. Totally believe that. Because sheet metal intakes have short runners. Boop, 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 boop. Even a Holly high ram has short runners compared to a factory one. So it's going to lose low RPM power. It's only for wide open throttle. Very top end. That's the thing. Things like the high ram or even the mid or the ultra low, those things are terrible unless you're up at redline all the time. For driving around, you're better off leaving your stock or going with like an atomic or something like that. A fast, whatever they make. I have DFCO disabled. I'm in SD only right now. So you think my VVE is just off, and that's why my EQ goes from 1.2 to 8 back and forth. That's a big jump. That's 40%. You're in a manual fifth-gen Camaro, and CFCO is off also, to be clear. Brother Bernard, you get done with yours, fly over here and come work on mine. How do I hook up two widebands in the scanner for math and VE table tuning? You're going to have to use something like the ProLink to be able to bring two in. If you're using the serial, you might be able to get away with the OBD2 one, but then you're stacking a lot of OBD2 interfaces. But run the ProLink, you've got 2 analog inputs. You can do it that way. Not sure I can say what anymore. That God hates Holly? Only on coast down. Oh, if it's jumping around on coast down, who cares? You're offload. Doesn't matter. You're going to turn DFCO back on, and it's going to go full lean anyways. Whoo! 800 horsepower. I don't know. What is 8,000 Australian? Is that like $800? Neutral, skip, shift is. Nope. Hey, man, I'll talk about tuning VV all day long. Oh, God. Mrs. Garage is just having such a hard time. Okay, I'm about to go on a rant. I need like a rant thing that pops up and it's like, oh, look out, Kyle's going on a rant. Ah! Okay, be careful, MK. So, the state of airline travel these days is absolutely atrocious. Who here in the chat room has flown in the last, say, 6 months or so? Because I've flown, I don't know, 10 times at least. And I will say, out of those 10 times, I've had at least 4 of my flights be delayed. It's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. How they get away with this. They charge an arm and a leg for these tickets. Nothing's cheap anymore. And yet, they have a 40% failure rate. Oh, Bernard, no. That's way too much money, man. There's got to be somebody who can do that transmission for less than that. End rant. Sorry. Give him a soapbox with a stick figure looking at. It's about right. Ugh. You know, I don't think it's maintenance related. I think it's understaffing. Because, like, I know at least 2 of my flights have been delayed because they've not had staff, they've not had stewardesses to work the plane. And they're showing up late from another plane. Like, it's crap like that it's just mind-blowing. Or pilots, yeah. I mean, and why would you want to be a pilot? They don't pay them enough. Ugh. It's horrible everywhere, Fuzzy. Literally everywhere. Charles Vincent, good question. HP Tuners VCM scanner. What channel do you add to show the duty cycle? You add the injector pulse width, and then the duty cycle is calculated. If you go underneath the math parameters up top, drop the menu down, go into math, there's a injector duty cycle underneath there. Add it to your little squiggly line graph. That's the best place to do it. Overworked and underplayed. Yeah, I don't blame the people who work there. I blame the companies. It's terrible. It's terrible. So it's just I don't see. I don't know. Something's going to have to change. Like, I'm just not going to fly anymore if I don't have to. Els, I told you, to hook 2 wideband's up, you got to have the ProLink. It's safe to say my wife is a little steamed right now. I don't blame her. It's just been a terrible, terrible situation. Running rich and cold IAT and running lean when the engine has a chance to idle for a while. Jonathan, have you adjusted your temperature correction bias to ECT to see if it makes a difference? Underneath your airflow tab, there will be a IAT versus ECT bias. Has a bunch of numbers in there. The scale is 0 to 2, generally 0 to 1 on some. And it'll say down at the little tooltip at the bottom, 0 is ECT, 1 is IAT, or vice versa. Fill that thing up with whatever the ECT is and see if it fixes it. C6 Corvette, Z06, road course car, DFCOs not engaging. What factors may be preventing fuel cutoff? car pushes and turns off throttle. Okay, Steve, so there's a lot of enablers on there, but where I see it happen where it's not enabling enough is the one that manifold air pressure has to dip below a certain point. So look for the one that's manifold air pressure and raise that up, because a lot of time whenever you modify things, you're not getting as much vacuum whenever you let off throttle, and it's not enabling that trigger. Check that one out. It's probably what you're dealing with. Take a ride in a Goodyear blimp. You got access to that, David? Mike, you're not missing anything. Yes. Get my own plane with all the YouTube profits. I couldn't even afford a Piper Cub. I'm not Cletus McFarland over here. Buy her a gift. Like what, Brad? I don't know. My wife gets everything that she wants. I spoil my wife. Fuzzy, I 1000% believe that, because passengers are the worst. And something else, okay, I'm getting back up on my soapbox here. Q rant number 2. Quit flying with carry-on luggage. Check that crap. You're making everybody else's day worse. If you can't afford the $50 to check your bag, you don't need to be flying. End rant. Get off my soapbox. Okay. There we go. Oh, David. I'm not a big fan of heights, and I don't trust blimps. I don't mind flying, but I don't trust things like that. Now, if you told me it was LS swapped, yeah, max it out, Jonathan. Max it out before you mess with that, and just see if it makes a difference, because it's a good way to rule out ECT or IAT issues on your tune. Wow, LS3 has no MAF. Bought it like that. Normally you buy them and all they have is a MAF tune. Brian, what am I doing my MAF stuff for the Cobalt? I have 2 history set up, one for the STF and LTFs. Long-term, short-terms, one for EQ ratio. The fuel trim show negative in the EQ ratio. Hey, add them together. If you got a wideband, Brian, add your short-terms and long-terms to your EQ ratio. That'll give you a total error percentage, because if your trims are going this way, but your wideband's going that way, by the time the math does it, it'll pull them both together. Or you can just disable closed loop so your trims don't affect it, and you can just go off your wideband. But I've been having some fairly decent luck lately leaving the closed loop enabled and then adding that into the wideband to get a final number. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You just have to play with it. Oh yeah, I know they got planes that use LS motors. Now you put an LS in everything. Everything. That's why they say LS swap the world. How do you have it set up in the graph with 2 widebands? Well, you can't do MAF and VE at the same time. I mean, supposedly you can. There's apparently a new post has cropped up on this. I've beat this horse to death 6 times. You're either on the MAF or you're on the VE. Specifically, that's why we failed the MAF, so we force it to VE only. So we're only tuning the VE. But you can't separate the two, because they blend together through the ECU to create dynamic airflow, and that's what fueling's actually taken off of. We have to calibrate them one at a time. That way, whenever they're blended, they're correct. Is there a downside to running large injectors? Yeah. They're hard to get to not be rich at idle. You hit a point where they can only open and close so slow, and you're going to be rich at idle. If you're only hitting 60% duty cycle, man, you got more than enough headroom. Hey, Dad. Everybody tell Dad hi. Dad just showed up in the chat room. Has a Maggie 2300. 1.78 headers, 3-inch collectors. Sounds probably like a strong setup, Bernard. Yeah, it runs on VE. I mean, you could still run a MAF on that setup. Also, it has a VE table that I can see in the tune. It's MAF only. Yeah, you've got to listen. You got to do VE. 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 Somebody clip that portion and just make a loop of it. Got to do VE. Things do not run without VE. There is no such thing as a MAF only tune. Okay? Just can't. You can't turn off the VE table. It will not work. Yeah, no, if it runs, you probably have to. The thing about that stinks about Bernard is whenever you have SD only and it had MAF, it's a lot easier to dial the MAF in. You don't have to spend as much time on the VE. If you get the VE within, 5, 6, 7%, it's fine. Because once you get above 3,000 RPMs, a lot of the weight is put on the mass airflow sensor. It's leaning, or it's providing more information to the dynamic final calculation than the VE at that point in time. So the big things that we're looking for is the VE controls idle well. The VE does not allow lean tip ends. And we want it to be fairly close. That way, if the MAF does fail, it fails back onto a VE table. So, yeah. You gotta tune VE. You absolutely 100% have to tune volumetric efficiency or speed density. Well, okay, so the MAF doesn't respond well to quick changes. It is steady state. It does better in steady state. And that means laminar smooth airflow. And as the airflow goes up or goes down, there's not dramatic changes in between. VE is a lot quicker of an airflow calculation. So whenever there's jumps in airflow up or down, it works a lot better. So the cutoff from the factory is about 4,000 RPMs for the MAF. And I say cutoff, where it puts more weight on the MAF is about 4,000 RPMs on most setups from the factory. You lower that down. I normally lower it down to about 2,500. Where the MAF really struggles, though, is on big cam cars because you start getting reversion in the intake channel, in your duct, your intake duct, and where the air is actually pulsing on as it's going into the motor. And whenever it pulses like that, it just cannot fuel. Hey, man, all about that laminar flow. Idle command is 900 and running about 1,000 RPMs. Spark seems smooth. So you got a couple issues there. If the idle is 1,000 over your commanded, either your base idle airflow is too high or your base timing is too high. Your idle spark is too high. So look at your dynamic airflow in pounds per hour and compare it to your base idle airflow. You probably need to take about 10-15% out of there. Yeah, MAFs, honeycomb inserts, they're straighteners. That's all they are. They take turbulent flow and make them laminar. So, but, it's just dial your VE table in down low where it needs it and use the MAF up top where it likes it, We get the best of both worlds. Whereas a lot of platforms, Mustangs, normally only get one or the other. They're either a MAF-based or a VE-based setup. We've got both. So we have ultimate drivability. We can mod the living crap out of these cars. We can do huge cams, headers, heads, superchargers, turbos, all this stuff. But we have the ability to tune in ways that work best on low RPMs and high RPMs. That's why GM is better than all the rest. I've got a Ford on my shirt right now. I'm not hating on Fords. I'm not hating on Dodges. I don't care. Well, Bernard, that's a good problem to have. You can't put your pedal to the floor without spinning the rears. That means you got all the power you want. Probably why the tranny is dying. Exactly. Cole said he had a Mustang, cost me 2 seconds on the track yesterday. How'd it do that? Yeah, I mean, you gotta. It's really important whenever if you're building an intake that you're going to put a MAF in, that you have a nice straight section for that MAF sensor to go in. Exactly, Cole. Were you pulling a Ford? Couldn't get out of the way fast enough. So apparently you weren't drag racing. You were on the roundy round track kind of stuff. Another fuel cutoff. Oh, this is a different one. Been chasing fuel cutoff right at 22.5 psi. Car came in a tried adjusting torque tables. Oh, wait a second. 22.5 pounds of boost? You're having fuel cutoff? Oh man, Matt, you got so much going on here. Tried adjusting the torque tables. That's going to be airflow or spark. Torque tables don't have anything to do with fueling. So, I mean, if you're having issues with the fly-by-wire, having no control or revving to the moon, that's your torque tables. But fuel cutoff is not torque-based. Fuel cutoff is generally going to be RPM-based or traction-based. What's this on, Matt? What vehicle, what generation ECU, stuff like that? Exactly. Put that stock intake tube back on. Listen, okay, so here's the other thing. Intakes, throttle bodies, all these things, like, I see people throw this stuff out. It's like, I put a 130 millimeter on there. It's like, man, you don't need a 103 millimeter. Your engine doesn't breathe that hard. So if you look at your manifold air pressure and it goes to 100 kPa at wide open throttle, you don't have any intake restrictions. If it has some vacuum on it, take your air filter out. You'll go up to 100. If it still doesn't, then you can start hunting down intake restrictions like cold air intake or throttle body, stuff like that. You'd be surprised at the amount of power that you can make on a 87 millimeter throttle body. Especially, if you're boosted. Throttle bodies on boosted setups, don't bother. Save your money. Sure, Brian. That's what it's for, man. I love helping people out on the live show, but if you want the more in-depth stuff, go check out our Patreon. And saying that, it is 8:31. I should probably jump off here and call Mrs. Garage and figure out what's going on before she has a meltdown and gets arrested by TSA. Listen, smash that like button. If you're in here, there's 55 of you right now. I want to see the likes. We're at 24. I want to see that to jump up. We got to break 35 like instantly. Let's see it now. Come on. I need to put a counter up here. Keep going. Keep hitting that like button. 28. We're getting closer. Don't go anywhere until you hit that. 33. We're almost there. Get myself. 36. Okay, thanks, guys. Listen. You guys know the drill. Thanks for stopping by the garage. I got a video coming out next couple days. You're either going to love it or hate it. We're talking about segment swaps. I know a lot of you people have asked about segment swaps. HP Tuners put out a video on like Instagram and probably Facebook the other day showing a segment swap that was complete and total. Just no, it doesn't work like that. And so I'm going to correct the error on it. So... yeah, exactly. Now hit unlike. Okay, listen. You guys know the drill. Thanks for stopping by the garage. Remember, ABT, always.